This video will contain spoilers for all Xenoblade games, except Xenoblade X. So, the new direct just dropped and it hit us with a bombshell. I was expecting to see Wave 3, but I didn't believe we would see Wave 4, let alone Alvis in this direct. It caught me so off guard that even in my live reaction I was speechless.
And coming in Volume 4 later this year.
Whoa! Go back!
Tell me why! Is this really what you want?
What the
Nothing's gonna get through to him.
Okay,
He's a
guys.
heartless machine.
Guys, I'm gonna wake up after this, right?
Like killing Granddad wasn't enough for you?
Volume 3 of the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 expansion pass for the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 game launches on the Nintendo Switch system February 15th.
February 15?
Shake it, amigo.
What just happened?
But yes, this teaser was so powerful it finally made me do a video on this channel. So welcome, and I hope you stick by. But anyways, let's get into the good stuff. I won't treat this as a frame-to-frame analysis or point out everything that others have already pointed out. I bet you have already seen Luxin's hour-long video about this, and if you haven't, I highly recommend it. What I want to discuss today is stuff you might have missed or lore implications that it might suggest. So let's start with the obvious Trinity core processor in the room. Alvis is back. People have wanted him to return for a long time, but this blows all our expectations away. He is holding the Monado 1. His design is exactly the same as it was in Xenoblade 1, or rather his updated Xenoblade Definitive Edition design. But as many people have noticed, his jacket is fluffier again like it was in Xenoblade 1. Just for people to catch up to date, we should explain what Alvis is. He is one of the 3 core processors in a phase transition experiment facility, which we know is the first low orbit station, Radamanthus, I think that's how you spell it, where Klaus made his experiment. The 3 cores, Ontos, Logos and Numa, Alvis, Malus and Mithra respectively, were computer AIs made to manage the experiments with the conduit. But Alvis triggered a space-time transition event and went to the Xenoblade 1 universe after Klaus's experiment. In that dimension he has full control over the power the conduit gives him. Another difference between him and the other cores is that he was never awakened to a blade, unlike Malus and Mithra. Blades take the view and ambition from the driver who awoke them, making them more human in a sense, and they are able to slowly gain their own consciousness and feelings. Alvis stayed an unbiased information processing unit, and that might be the reason why he does the things he does in this teaser. Rex also calls him a heartless machine, but we never got that feeling of him whilst playing Xenoblade 1, so I think there's more to it than that. His wings can just be explained as part of his aesthetic style design, but the Monado 1 has people questioning why it is that Monado and not any other Monado. My guess is that it's his original Monado, basically his blade weapon if you want to compare it like this. We know the Monado can take other shapes depending on the wielder, but this was the base design. The more important fact is the giant rift in the back. As many people have already figured out, this has very strong resemblance to the rift from Future Connected, making Future Connected foreshadowing finally paying off. We still don't know much about the rift, but Shulk's first instinct when seeing it was that it has to be because of the new state of the world. The Fog King that came out of the rift had a strong resemblance with one of the Xenoblade 2 enemies, so this is most definitely a rift that happens before the 2 worlds of Xenoblade 1 and Xenoblade 2 collide. We know Melee and Nia both were prepared for the upcoming fusion, so they made Origin in preparation for this, and the rift was probably a sign of the upcoming disaster. Do I think Alvis is directly causing these? Probably not, but I can't know for sure. We have no idea what Alvis is doing. My guess is that the rift actually causes Alvis to be this way and not the other way around. But enough speculation about Alvis. In the next shot we see Shulk in all his new glory and the Monado replica EX Plus he created in Future Connected. This is indeed the same Monado Rex Plus that we see with Melia at the credits of Xenoblade 3, which confirms to me that this is Shulk and not some reincarnation from the cycle of the Endless Now. And this is not his blade weapon, but indeed the original Monado replica and a physical object. Other than that, his new design is very nice, and he still wears the high neck sweaters with the addition of a cape this time around, because why not? His power frame that he uses for the Rex Plus is around his chest this time around. Other than that, he looks basically like Shulk but older. People have noticed the fangs on him, which is a strange design difference. I guess this is just his new stylized look. Next is my boy Rex. This is the glow up of the century, and every Rex hater in the universe is in shambles right now. And he finally wears pants. His new drip is amazing, but this also confirms that he is not a salvager anymore. But he kept his trusty anchor shot, though the actual anchor shot seems to be missing in this picture. Now he resembles Adam a lot more, seeing how Adam is his long ancestor. But he definitely also reminds me a bit of Zeke from Xenoblade 2 and Vandham as well, which makes sense because they were both like mentors to him. Before we move on from his looks, look at my boy's beard. Anyway, next are his weapons. He is dual wielding Pyra and Mithra's sword, but if you look closely, these are not Pyra and Mithra's swords. They lack the core crystal that resembles the conduit and their own core crystal. People speculate that's because Pyra and Mithra lost their Aegis power at the end of 2, but this is not how it works. The blade weapons always have the core crystal from the blade in the sword. This goes for Flesh Eaters and Blade Eaters as well. These are not Pyra and Mithra's swords. And I don't think these are his blade weapons like people of Ionios get theirs either. We have established that Shulk's blade is definitely physical, so in my opinion, these are replicas, and Pyra and Mithra are probably not around anymore. Now don't ask me where they are or what happened to them, I don't want to think about it. But if the rift somehow powers up Alvis and changes him, it could do the same for Pyra and Mithra. And for more proof that these are replicas and not redesigns of the weapon, Nia actually uses the real designs when she fights in Xenoblade 3. A lot of people speculated that Rex built them for him, but in my opinion it could have also been Tora. Now if you paid great attention and have a keen eye, this is not the first time we saw Shulk and Rex's new design. In base game, as soon as you enter the city, there are statues depicting the two heroes alongside 4 other founders. Rex and Shulk themselves are not founders. These 2 statues are the only ones depicting mentors of the actual founders. The Reed description reads, "In memory of the founder of House Reed." Rather than the founder herself, this statue depicts the founder's mentor figure, standing as a sign of a deep reverence and devotion she felt for her teacher. The founder's master was unconnected to her by bonds of blood, yet he raised her as would benefit a child of his own, it is said. Through the calm and constant disposition, the sign of him on the battlefield, great red sword in hand, struck fear into many Mobius. And though the vicious struggle against Mobius cost this ferocious warrior his right arm, the loss did nothing to diminish his desire to hone his martial skills each day, standing as a vivid testament to his indomitable will. And House Cassini reads, "In memory of the founder of House Cassini." Much like the founder of Reed, this statue too depicts the founder's respected mentor rather than the founder herself. The mentor boasted a robust physique, wielding 2 great swords at once with utmost ease, and facing down Mobius despite the loss of 1 eye. Indelible proof of this rebellious spirit can be seen time and time again in the ethos of the house in generations to come. The symbol of Reed also looks like a monado, while Cassini has the 2 swords. But from the description we know that Shulk loses an arm and Rex loses 1 of his eyes. This battle against Alvis will be brutal, and I'm down for that. Now the important question, when does this take place? I see a lot of confusion still, but in my honest opinion, this is definitely in the past Ionios. We clearly see one of the founders later, that we will get into very soon, but also Shulk and Rex are both depicted in the Founders Hall as we know. People might suggest that this can also take place after the end of Xenoblade 3 in the New World, but there are a lot of hints disproving this theory. For once, the new Vandham guy is clearly a descendant of Noah and Mio's child, and if you still had any doubts that this is Vandham, we can clearly see the symbol of the House Vandham on his right sleeve. Also in this shot, where we see the new area, it is clearly still taking place in Ionios. We can see Moradein's hand in the distance, as well as a little bit of Uriah. And the place itself, it's like a distorted place from Xenoblade 1's Bionis leg. This is roughly around where the Cloud Key was in Xenoblade 3. People also theorize that this could take place before Ionios existed, but that also makes no sense because it would mean Rex and Shulk would not be in the same universe yet. So we cleared that point, but I wanted to go deeper. When exactly does this take place? This is where it gets confusing. We know the founder, Vandham, is a descendant of Noah, and the party stated how his chin looked like Noah's. He also clearly looks like Noah. But he also had a sister that looks like Mio from House Doyle. The statue of House Vandham reads, "In memory of the founder of House Vandham and the city restorer and liberator, The original incarnation of the city was once laid to ruin by Mobius N's hand. The founder realized fully the power of Ouroboros, heretofore limited, and fought against N, ousting him. Once victorious, he gathered the old city's people, scattered to the winds, and re-established the city. With the city restored, he left its government in the hands of the founder Doyle and departed on a lonely expedition. No records exist of his fate thereafter. Heirs to Vandham's lineage only returned to the city several centuries later. Oral tradition has it that the founder was master of the classical art of fistfighting, and the scions of House Vandham carry on the custom to this day. The statue for House Doyle reads, "In memory of the founder Doyle and the city's liberatics," directly descended from those who established the first original city. Her whereabouts were lost after N's ravaging in the city of old, but upon encountering the founders, she committed herself fully to the fight. This founder is said to have familiar relation to the founder of Vandham, with scant extant records suggesting that they likely brother and sister. She fought alongside the founder of Vandham, who was the elder of the two, and brought the power of Ouroboros to completion. Said to have been bright and wise, this founder laid the cornerstones for much of the city's governance and legal system. So Vandham has a sister from House Doyle, which means it must not be Noah's child, but the child from Noah's child. This at least puts him 2 generations after Noah. There's also the fact that N and M had countless rebirths before having a child, and became N and M. This takes place hundreds of years after the creation of Ionios. Does that mean Shulk and Rex are also reborn then? This is gonna get a little bit confusing and complicated, so stay with me. I don't think Shulk and Rex are in the rebirth cycle Zed created. First of all, both are way older than 20 years old, and we know people of Ionios can't live past 20 years. Then how? Well, both Melia and Nia are also not in the cycle, so it would make sense if other people from the past are not in the cycle as well. There's another strange thing though. Why didn't they age in more than 100 years? We know Nia can live much longer because she's a flesh eater, and we know High Entia have a much longer lifespan, but people forget that High Entia don't live that much longer. Their lifespan is not more than 300 years. So current Xenoblade 3 Melia should not be around as well anymore. This suggests that people in Ionios don't age, or age way slower than normal, so it would make sense for Shulk and Rex to be around 100 years later. I think I have to say this again here, these are all theories and speculations, so please don't come after me if all of this is proven wrong, but I hope you can see some logic in what I'm saying. I want to look at the new Vandham here again. This shot here confirms something that was super confusing in Xenoblade 3, that you might not even have thought about. Remember when Monica and the rest were saying that the city's founders were the first Ouroboros? How can this be when we know the second city was established after the first city was taken down by N? And we in fact know from flashbacks that before N became Mobius, there were Ouroboros as well. Something didn't add up. I think this shot explains a lot. We see Vandham's left eye glow in the Ouroboros light, which is Agnium by the way, but there's no partner around him, and he still summons an Ouroboros-like figure. Now this Ouroboros kinda reminds me of Mios and a bit of Tyons, but is definitely a new design overall. It looks like he summons the Ouroboros like a Stan from JoJo instead of transforming into one. This is how Ouroboros used to be, before the first Ouroboros figured it out from the city. Let's read that part from Vandham's statue description again. The founder realized fully the power of Ouroboros, heretofore limited, and fought against N, ousting him. It all clicks now. He discovered that 2 people from Kevis and Agnes fusing would actually make the true Ouroboros and unleash the full potential. Him and the other founders followed his lead and beat N, and then established the city we know today. So I think this means we don't actually fight Alvis, or only Alvis. N plays a major role in this as well. What if the scene with Alvis doesn't actually play in the same time frame? At the point of Vandham fighting against N, Rex and Shulk could already have lost an eye and an arm, but they still would need to be around to act as mentors for the other 2 founders. Honestly, my biggest fear for this DLC is that we don't get to play dual wielding Rex. Please God, Monolith Soft, don't do this to me. So to round up this whole video, I want to somewhat present a timeline for you. In the first step, Ionios was born. A lot of time passed with N and M reincarnating. Then they had a child. Then the child had descendants and built the first city. Then N became Mobius and destroyed the city. This could already have been hundreds of years later. Then not long after, Vandham stood up against him, telling him like killing granddad wasn't enough for you, which suggests his granddad might have been N's kid or another descendant. Then the second city was established. Then a long time has passed before Xenoblade 3 takes place. And when I say a long time, I mean a long time. Maybe this will shock you, but it's more like 1000 years later. Because actually in base game, we see a flashback of M that takes place 1000 years ago, where she helped establish the homecoming ceremony. And somewhat between the first and the second city being established is where the Alvis confrontation takes place. But that's just the Xenoblade theory. Whew, this was a lot for my first real video on this channel. I hope you like any of my theories, and please tell me if you have other theories or things I might have missed, and thank you for watching. And hey, maybe you want to sub too, who knows? Do it for Nia.